Right people, so we're in a bit of an Apple news drought right now, so of course I thought, hey, why not do something different and do a tier list for Apple's 2022 releases. Since we're pretty sure there's not going to be a November event, and Apple rarely does December releases, so yeah, I think this is about it for Apple's 2022 announcements, and so let's rank them, because overall I have to say guys, this was a pretty mixed bag of a year for Apple, but of course, let's put these products on a tier list and see how they rank. Now in case you're wondering, S is fantastic, A is very good, B is solid, C is meh, D is could be better, and of course E is terrible. So let's begin with the March event, and the first release was the green iPhone 13s. Now I'm gonna rank them based on the color because the products themselves are from 2021, so I'm not gonna judge them on that, just the colors alone, and based on that, I have to say the regular green iPhone 13 is a C, because I don't think the dark shade really suited the iPhone 13 color lineup. The other colors for the most part were lighter shades, and so introducing a completely different darker green for the regular 13 was pretty odd. Also, there was a glossy back which was not nice, so yeah, this is a C. Now moving to the Alpine Green 13 Pros, this actually was a much nicer shade and suited the premium nature of the Pro models, and so as a result, I'm gonna say A for this. This reminded me of the midnight green iPhone 11 Pros, one of the best colors ever made in my opinion, so yes, I'm a fan of this. Now moving to the iPhone SE 3, this is right at the bottom because this phone has really nothing good about it. It was a very stale refresh. The A15 chip was useless in this, 5G was also useless, slightly better battery life was nice, but it still was not great in comparison to newer iPhone models. And yeah, for the price, you could get much better iPhone models. For example, if you want the iPhone 6 body, get the SE2, that basically gives you the same core experience. If you want a small iPhone, get the 12 mini, that's fantastic and has much better specs. The 10 and the 11 give you much better battery life. And so yeah, there's basically no market for this. Now moving to the iPad Air, initially I was disappointed with this. I did not see the purpose of the M1 chip. We did not see quad speakers or any sort of display upgrades. But things have drastically changed since the release. Now iPadOS 16 does have M1 exclusive features, and this kind of is the best value iPad in the range if you're looking to buy new iPads. Because yes, if you're not considering older iPad Pros, and you're solely looking at new iPads Apple sells, the iPad Air is the best value because the iPad Pros are too expensive, and they don't offer enough for the price. The new base iPad is of course a terrible product, definitely not worth it. And so unless you want the mini size, I think the iPad Air has the best balance of features. It gives you access to all the iPadOS features with the M1 chip, and it comes at a pretty good price. So yeah, iPad Air is a B tier product. I think it's very solid, definitely not revolutionary, but still a very good iPad. Also, they fixed the blue with the M1 iPad Air, it's now fantastic. So yes, very solid B tier product. Now moving to the bigger releases from the March event, we begin with the display, and this is kind of a C tier product, I think. Why I think this is because this ultimately is the same 27-inch iMac panel we've had for years, repackaged in a new body for a not so great price. If it had something different about the display like mini LED or 120Hz, it would have been a B or A tier product, but without those and basically offering the same display we've had for years at a pretty high price, yeah, it's a C tier product. Now for those wondering why it's not lower on the list, well, of course, do remember this is still more affordable than the Pro display, so there's that. I guess that's a redeeming factor about it, and I guess that's why it's kinda worth it for some consumers. But yeah, very meh product, should have had better specs. Oh, also just remember the webcam on it sucks too, so yeah, this is a very definite C tier product. However, moving to the Mac Studio, this is easily our first S tier product on the list. This was fantastic. I think Apple nailed the Mac Studio because a lot of people wanted something more powerful than the Mac Mini, but of course, something that was more affordable than the Mac Pro, so this was the perfect in-between device. It had more ports, it had more power, it had a good price. Yeah, Apple kinda nailed the Mac Studio. And it did kinda make up for the lack of a Mac Pro refresh, or of course a Mac Mini with the M2 Pro chip. So moving to WWDC's releases, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think the MacBook Air is a C tier product. Now let me explain. Yes, the redesign was great, but the M2 chip was not a major refresh, And more importantly, the price of this did not make any sense because the base model was now too expensive, and if you upgraded this, you got to the price of the 14-inch, and that's a much better Mac with, of course, 120Hz, more ports, better speakers, better mics, better performance, and yeah, just better everything. Also, they made the SSD slow with the base models, so yeah, overall this is a pretty meh product. I'm hoping with future versions the price does go back down to $1,000, then I can see this being an A or B tier product. Now moving to the M2 MacBook Air, this is a D tier product for me because while it's not as bad as the SE3, there are some consumers that I could see this appealing to. For example, those who want better performance, you get a fan in this, giving you slightly better performance than the MacBook Air, or of course for those who stand by the touch bar and absolutely need it, this is the only MacBook that offers it. But ultimately this is not worth getting because there is the MacBook Air for less that gives you MagSafe, a better webcam, a new design, and of course if you upgrade this, similar to the MacBook Air, does get close in price to the much better 14-inch. Also, the SSD slow with the base model like the MacBook Air, so overall this was not a great refresh. So moving to the September releases and beginning with the Apple Watches, the Series 8 might actually be at the bottom for me because overall this was a very still refresh, the same exact chip, the same exact design. Basically the only difference was crash detection, which of course we got with the iPhones, and also cycle tracking for females, but that's apparently not very accurate. So yeah, basically there's no point buying this, just get the Series 7 instead. It's still available through third parties and the Apple Refurb store. Now the SE2 I would say scrapes into C tier because it did ultimately kill the Series 3 and that's fantastic news. But this still isn't the best value in terms of Apple Watches. You can find the Series 6 and the 7 for less, and those have always on displays, more health sensors, the same exact chip. So yeah, basically for buying new watches, this is decent, but there are definitely better deals. However guys, the Ultra has to easily be S tier for me. In fact, this is a strong contender for best product of the year because Apple nailed everything with the Ultra. They gave us a design that embraces the rugged aesthetic. I love the titanium finish. I love the big screen. I love the amazing battery life. I love how it's pretty good value for the price. And it's also got some pretty cool features like the customizable button and of course the high-pitched siren if you're in trouble. So yes, while I'm not in the market for this because I rarely leave the house, I do love this product. I think for the target demographic, this is a perfect Apple Watch. And yeah, Apple really has given us the first properly exciting Apple Watch in years with the Ultra. Now moving to AirPods Pro 2, I've got to be honest guys, I think this scrapes into S tier as well because yes, the design's not really different, but Apple doubles down on basically everything that made the first gen pair great. For example, 2 times better ANC, active transparency mode so that of course your ears are protected from harsh sounds. Also the case now has a speaker so if lost, it can play a sound, and you also get better sound quality, better battery life. Those are a ton of big improvements, especially for the same price. So yes, I'm very happy with this. Now moving to the regular iPhone 14 models, this is another D tier for me because much like the MacBook Pro, yes, there are some people that could get this. For example, for those wanting a light design with the best battery life, the 14 Plus offers that. Or of course, if you want the slight camera improvements, you could get this. But ultimately, it should have been a better product. There should have been a new chip in this. There should have been a lower price. There should have been more new features in general with these. And so yeah, that's why it's in D tier. I will say though, the colors with the regular 14s are fantastic. I love the blue and the reds. But yeah, the product itself isn't that great. Now moving to the iPhone 14 Pros, I know there's been hate for these phones, and I myself have had issues. But right now, after a few updates, Apple's fixed most of my issues. And overall, I have to say this is an A tier product. I mean, I use the 14 Pro Max and the battery life now is fantastic. I also like the brighter panel, the dynamic island's nice, 2x is clutch. The always on display is now better with the new update. I really like the front facing camera improvements. And so yeah, overall this is a very solid iPhone refresh and I'm very happy with it. I guess the only thing that stops it from being S tier is of course, it's ultimately not a revolutionary upgrade, but it's still very good. Now moving to the October announcements, the Apple TV 4K easily makes it into A tier for me because I've really enjoyed using it. I think they nailed this refresh. They gave us a better chip, they gave us a low price, and so you can now get the maxed out 128GB model for less than the older 4K base model. And they also, of course, killed off the Apple TV HD. So yeah, overall this was a very good refresh. Oh, also nearly forgot, the USB-C remote was also nice upgrades. So yeah, definitely A tier for me. Now moving to the iPads, these weren't so great. So beginning with the iPad Pros, these are D tier for me because, again, like the iPhone 14 and the MacBook Pros, yes, there are some niche markets for these devices. For example, for those wanting the best performance from an iPad, the M2 iPads offer that. Or if you do art on the iPad, I can see the Apple Pencil hover feature appealing to you, but apart from that, there is no reason to get these iPads. Just get the M1 models instead. As I said for the M2 MacBook Air, the M2 chip wasn't a massive refresh, and really the only upgrade was the chip with these iPad Pros. So yeah, these iPads should have been better. Also remember, the base iPad got the landscape camera and the function row, which of course the iPad Pros for some reason did not. So yeah, definitely a pretty below par refresh. But that's not the worst iPad refresh we got this year, because the base iPad's easily into the last column because it's just not worth getting, especially for the much higher price for this over the iPad 9. It did not offer enough. It had too many compromises, specifically the whole USB-C Apple Pencil 1 situation. That was a mess. So yeah, please do not buy this iPad. Get the iPad Air 5 or the iPad Air 4 refurb, or even older iPad Pros, or if you don't care about the new design, just get the iPad 9. There are just so many other better iPads for the price. And yeah, I can't lie guys, this might be the worst Apple product of the year, because while the SE3 is a still refresh, at least it wasn't that much more expensive. The same goes for the Series 8, but that's not the case with the iPad 10. This got a massive price increase, and the features it has are just not good enough. And since we're done with the tier list, let me quickly tell you guys what's my favourite Apple products, and that has to be the Apple Watch Ultra in my opinion, because as I said, they nailed everything with this product. The design is amazing, the battery life is great, I love the features, and so yeah, it definitely deserves to be the best. And that's my tier list for you guys. Looking at everything, I do want to mention I might push down the green iPhone 13, so there we go, that is my tier list. I think I'm done, but of course, if you want this template, I'll leave it in the comments and in the description, so you can send me your tier list. Send it to me on Twitter if that's still live. If not, just manually write out your tier list in the comments, and let's see how different our rankings are for these products. Anyways, thank you for watching guys. Make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumors, and on that note, see ya peeps.